I was 6 years old when I learned that love doesn't always stay. Back then, I didn't understand adult problems. I only understood simple things, like who makes my breakfast, who fixes my broken toys, and who hugs me when I cry. That was my mom. And my dad? He was my hero. At least, he used to be. I still remember that morning very clearly. It looked normal at first. Sunlight was coming through the window. My mom was quietly packing clothes in the bedroom, and my dad was sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at the floor like something heavy was crushing his chest. I walked in holding my teddy bear. "Dad, are you going to work?" He didn't smile like he usually did. Instead, he looked at me for a long time, like he was trying to memorize my face. "Yes, sweetheart," he said finally, but his voice didn't sound normal. It sounded like goodbye. I didn't understand it then. Kids never do. My mom came out of the room, her eyes red. I remember asking her, "Why are you sad?" She knelt down, held my hands tightly, and said, "Everything will be fine." But nothing was fine. That same day, my dad picked up a small suitcase. Just one. Like he wasn't leaving a family, just a room. I followed him to the door. "Dad, when are you coming back?" I asked. He stopped. For a moment, I thought he would come back and pick me up like always. But instead, he bent down, kissed my forehead, and said something I never forgot. "Be strong for your mom." Then he walked out. The door closed, and something inside our house broke. Forever. That night, I didn't sleep. I kept waiting for his footsteps, for the sound of his keys, for the door to open again. But it never did. My mom cried silently in the kitchen, thinking I couldn't hear her. But I heard everything. And that was the first night I realized something terrible. My dad wasn't coming back. After that day, everything changed. Even though the house was the same, the streets were the same, the school was the same, nothing inside our life felt the same anymore. My mum stopped smiling the way she used to. Not completely, but the real happiness in her face was gone. And me? I stopped asking one question. Where is Dad? Because every time I asked it, my mom's silence hurt more than any answer. Life didn't break in one moment. It broke slowly, like something leaking, drop by drop, until nothing is left. My mom started working longer hours. She would leave early in the morning and return late at night, when I was already asleep. Sometimes I would wake up and see her shoes still at the door. That meant she had just come home and left again without resting. I started growing up too fast for my age. I learned how to make simple food, how to wash my clothes, how to take care of myself, and sometimes even take care of her. But I was still a child, just living in a world that didn't treat me like one. At school, everything looked normal from outside. But kids can say things that stay inside you forever. One day, a boy in my class asked me, "Where is your dad? He never comes to pick you up." I didn't answer. He laughed and said, "Maybe he doesn't love you." I remember that moment clearly. Something broke inside me, but I didn't cry. Not there, not in front of anyone. I just stayed silent and kept eating my food.
inside, something colder was starting to grow. Something I didn't understand yet. That night, I heard my mom talking on the phone. Her voice was low and shaking. Yes, he left everything. No support. Nothing. A pause. I'm doing everything for her. He doesn't even ask about his daughter. My heart started beating faster. I stayed quiet outside the room, listening, hoping I was wrong. But I wasn't. After the call ended, I walked inside and asked the question I had been avoiding for years. Mom, where is Dad? She didn't answer immediately. She just looked at me, and in that silence, I understood something was wrong. Finally, she sat down and said the words that changed everything. Your father chose another life. I didn't fully understand it then, but I understood enough. He didn't just leave. He chose to leave us. From that day, something inside me changed. I stopped waiting for him, stopped hoping for him, stopped imagining he would come back one day. And instead, a new thought started growing inside me. If he could leave us so easily, then one day he will understand what he lost.
Years passed. I didn't even realize when I stopped being a little girl. Time didn't announce it. It just quietly took my childhood away and replaced it with responsibility. I was no longer 6. I was now a teenager. But emotionally, I felt much older than my age, because I had already lived through something many adults can't survive. Life at home became harder. My mom's health started getting weak. She would still go to work every day, even when she was sick, even when her body was tired. She never complained. She just kept going, for me. And I started noticing something. She was sacrificing everything just so I could have a normal life. But there was nothing normal about our life anymore. One night, I was sitting next to her while she was resting. Her eyes were closed, but she wasn't really sleeping. I held her hand and whispered, "Mom, I will make everything better one day." She slowly opened her eyes, looked at me, and smiled. But it wasn't a happy smile. It was a tired smile, like she didn't want to believe it, but still hoped it might be true. School was still the same, but I was not. I started focusing on studies more than anything else, because I realized something early. No one was coming to save us. Not my father, not anyone. Only me. Then something happened that changed my direction completely. There was a school competition, public speaking. I didn't even want to participate at first, but my teacher forced me. "Try it," she said. "You speak very deeply. You just don't know it yet." So I did. The topic was, what is the strongest feeling in life? When my turn came, I stood in front of everyone. My hands were shaking. My voice was low at first, but then I spoke, and I didn't stop. I talked about pain, about silence, about growing up without answers, about a father who left and a mother who stayed. When I finished, the hall was completely silent. Then slowly, applause started. First one person, then many, then everyone. I had never felt anything like that before. Not happiness, not pride.
something deeper, power. That day, something clicked inside me. I wasn't weak. I wasn't invisible. I had a voice, and people listened when I used it. But deep inside, there was still one thought I couldn't remove. No matter how successful I felt, no matter how strong I became, one question stayed inside me like a shadow. Why did he leave us? And more importantly, what will he say when he sees what I become? Because I didn't know it yet, but life was preparing a moment for me. A moment where the past would finally return. After that speech, something inside my life began to change. Not outside immediately, but inside me. For the first time, I realized something important. People don't just notice you when you are loud. They notice you when you are real. My teacher called me after class. She said something I will never forget. You have something powerful in your voice. You should use it more. I didn't fully understand what she meant, but I nodded. Because for once, someone believed in me. Days passed, then weeks, and slowly, that small school speech video was uploaded online. I didn't even know it at first. It was my classmate who told me. "Your video is going viral." I laughed. I didn't believe it. But when I checked, I froze. Thousands of views, then tens of thousands, then comments. People were saying things like, "She speaks from the heart. This feels so real. I cried listening to her." I didn't understand it. I was just talking about my life. But for others, it was something powerful. That was the first time I realized pain doesn't just break you. Sometimes it builds you into something stronger. At home, things were still difficult. My mother's health was getting worse. She was trying to hide it from me, but I could see it. The way she held the wall when she walked. The way she pretended she was fine, even when she wasn't. One night, I found her sitting alone in the kitchen. The lights were off. She thought I was asleep, but I saw her wiping her tears quietly. I walked in slowly. "Mum?" She quickly wiped her face. "I'm fine, Beta." But she wasn't. I sat next to her, and for the first time, I felt something dangerous inside me. Not sadness, not fear, anger. Not random anger, but controlled anger. Directed anger. Because I finally understood something. The person who left us never saw any of this. Never saw her struggle. Never saw my childhood disappear. And then, something unexpected happened. One evening, a message came to my social media account from an unknown profile. No name, just one line. Is this really her? I ignored it at first, but then another message came. She looks familiar. I felt strange, uncomfortable, like someone was watching from far away. I showed it to my mum. Her face went completely still. For a moment, she didn't speak. Then she said quietly, "Block it." But her voice was not normal. It was shaken, like she knew something but didn't want to say it. That night, I couldn't sleep. One question kept repeating in my mind. Who was watching me? And why did it feel like my past was slowly coming closer again?
After those strange messages, my mind couldn't stay calm anymore. Something inside me kept telling me this wasn't random. This was connected to him. At first, I tried to ignore it. I focused on school, on my mother, on everything I could control. But some thoughts don't leave you. They stay, quietly, in the background. One evening, I was scrolling through my social media again, and I saw something that made my heart stop for a second. The same unknown account had changed its profile picture. It was just a blurry image, but something about it felt familiar. Too familiar. I showed it to my mum again. This time, she didn't even look at it properly. She immediately said, "Delete it." Her voice was sharp, not angry, but scared. That was new. My mother never got scared easily. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about her reaction. Why was she so afraid? If it was nothing, she wouldn't react like that. The next morning, I asked her again, "Mum, who is it?" She stopped what she was doing, and for a moment, the whole room went silent. Then she said something I didn't expect. Some things from the past should stay in the past. That line hit me harder than anything else, because it didn't answer my question. It avoided it. Days passed, but something changed. I started noticing small things. My mother checking her phone quickly when I entered the room, her deleting messages, her becoming quieter when my name was mentioned online. It felt like she was hiding something from me, something big. Then, one evening, I got another message. But this time, it was different. It wasn't just text. It was a photo. A very old photo. Faded, but clear enough to recognize faces. It was my mother, younger, standing next to someone. A man. My hands started shaking because I recognized the background. It was our old house, from years ago. I showed it to my mum immediately. The moment she saw it, she froze, completely. No words, no reaction, just silence. Then she slowly sat down, like her legs couldn't hold her anymore. And in a very low voice, she said, "Where did you get this?" I asked again, "Mum, who is he?" She didn't answer right away. Her eyes filled with tears, and finally, she whispered one name. A name I hadn't heard in years. My father. For a moment, I couldn't breathe properly. Everything inside me went quiet. Not peace, but shock. So it was true. He was watching, or someone connected to him was. And now, he was no longer just a memory. He was becoming real again. But this time, I was not the same 6-year-old girl who waited at the door. I was different, stronger, angrier, and ready for the truth, no matter how painful it would be. After that name, everything inside me changed. It didn't feel like just information. It felt like a door opening that should have stayed closed forever. My mother sat there silently, staring at the floor, like she was replaying a past she never wanted to remember again. I waited for an explanation, for answers, for anything. But she didn't speak for a long time, and that silence was heavier than words. Finally, she stood up, slowly, and said, "If you really want to know the truth, sit down." My heart started beating faster, because I could feel it. This wasn't going to be simple. She took a deep breath, and then she began. "Your father was not a bad man at first." I stayed quiet, listening. He had dreams, big dreams. He wanted success, money, respect. A pause. But when life didn't go the way he wanted, he started changing. My hands tightened. I didn't interrupt. She continued. There were arguments, pressure, responsibilities he couldn't handle. Then her voice dropped, and what she said next changed everything I believed. One day, he told me he wanted to leave. Not just the house, but everything. I felt something break inside me again, but I still didn't speak. She looked at me for the first time, her eyes full of pain, and said, "I begged him to stay. I told him about you. You were only 6. Her voice cracked. But he still left. The room went completely silent. I couldn't understand it fully, not emotionally, not mentally, because no reason felt big enough to leave a 6-year-old child behind. Then she said something even more painful. He said he needed a new life. A new life. Like we were something he could replace. Like we were optional. I stood up without realizing it. My breathing became heavy. Not tears, anger. Deep anger. Because in that moment, I didn't feel sadness anymore. I felt something sharper, something dangerous. And then my mother said the final line, the line that stayed in my mind forever. If he comes back, don't trust him easily. I froze, because the man who left is not the same man who returns. I didn't know what she meant, but I knew one thing. He was coming back, or already close. And this time, I wasn't a child waiting at the door. I was someone who needed answers, and maybe someone who would finally make him face the truth. After hearing the truth, I thought I would feel relief, but I didn't. I felt heavier, like knowing everything had made it worse, not better. For days, nothing happened. No messages, no strange accounts, no signs, just silence. The kind of silence that feels suspicious, like something is waiting behind it. Then, one evening, my phone rang. Unknown number. I stared at it for a few seconds. Something inside me told me not to pick up, but I did. "Hello?" I said. For a moment, there was only breathing on the other side. Slow,
careful, like the person was afraid. Then a voice came, low, uncertain, but familiar in a way I couldn't explain. Is this her? My body froze. I didn't answer immediately. My heart started beating faster, because something about that voice felt like a memory I had buried. "Who is this?" I asked. Silence again. Then the voice spoke. "I think I know you." My grip tightened on the phone, and then he said my name. That moment, everything stopped, even time. I stepped back without realizing it. My hand was shaking. My mind was screaming one thing: no. Because I knew that voice. Or at least, a part of me did. I looked toward my mother. She was in the kitchen, and I slowly walked away from her so she wouldn't hear. "Who are you?" I asked again, this time louder, stronger. And then he said it. "I'm your father." The world didn't go dark, but it felt like it did. Not sadness, not shock. Something between both. And something else. Anger. I didn't know what to say. For 15 years, I imagined this moment, but never like this. Never like a phone call. Never like this cold distance. He spoke again. "My daughter, I just want to talk." "Talk?" I repeated. My voice changed without me noticing. "After 15 years, you want to talk?" Silence again. He had no answer. And then I said something I didn't plan. Something real. Something sharp. "Where were you when I was 6? The line went quiet for a long time. Too long. Then he said, "I made mistakes." I interrupted him immediately. "No." My voice was shaking now, but firm. "You didn't make a mistake. You made a choice." There was no response, only silence. And in that silence, I realized something. He wasn't powerful anymore. Not in my world. Not in my life. I was not the child waiting anymore. I was the voice asking questions he couldn't avoid. Before ending the call, he said one last thing. "I want to see you." I didn't answer immediately. I looked at my reflection in the dark screen of my phone. And I realized this wasn't just a reunion. This was the beginning of something bigger. Something unfinished. Something that had been waiting for 15 years. And I finally said, "Fine." But my voice was different now. Not soft, not emotional, controlled. After that call, I couldn't breathe normally for a long time. Not because I was scared, but because my life had just split into 2 parts. Before that call, and after that call. That night, I didn't sleep. I kept staring at the ceiling, replaying his voice in my head. My daughter. A word I hadn't heard in 15 years. In the morning, I told my mother. Just 2 words. He called.
Her reaction changed everything. Her face went pale. Not surprised, not confused, afraid. She said immediately, "No, you are not meeting him." Her voice was firm. For the first time, I saw panic in her eyes. But I didn't answer quickly, because something inside me had already decided. I needed answers. From him. Not from memories, not from silence. From him. I said softly, "Mom, I have to." She grabbed my hand tightly and said something I will never forget. "If you meet him, don't let your emotions control you." That line stayed with me, because it wasn't just advice, it was a warning. The meeting was set for the next day, a small cafe, neutral place, nothing dramatic. At least, that's what it was supposed to be. That morning, I dressed simply, but my hands were shaking the entire time. Not fear, not excitement, something deeper, something unfinished. When I reached the cafe, I saw him, sitting near the window, older, different, but still somehow familiar. For a moment, I just stood there, not moving, not speaking, just watching the man who left us. And then he looked up. Our eyes met. Time didn't stop, but it felt like it did. He slowly stood up, like he wasn't sure if he was allowed to, and said softly, "Hi." That one word hit harder than I expected. I didn't respond immediately. I just looked at him, trying to find the person I remembered. But I couldn't, because that person was gone. Or maybe he never really existed the way I thought. He stepped closer. "I know this is difficult." I interrupted him, my voice calm, too calm. "No." He stopped. I finally spoke again. "You don't get to decide what is difficult anymore." Silence. People around us kept moving, but in that moment, it felt like only two people existed in the world. He looked down, then said quietly, "I made mistakes." I looked directly at him and said, "You didn't make mistakes. You built a life without us." That hit him. I could see it. For the first time, he didn't have a prepared answer. And I realized something important. This wasn't a reunion. This was a confrontation. A long-delayed truth finally facing the past. He sat back down slowly and said, "I want to fix things." I stayed silent for a moment, then said, "Some things are not fixed." My voice didn't shake, not once, because the girl who waited at the door was gone. And the girl sitting here now was not waiting anymore. She was deciding. He sat there quietly, like he didn't know what to say anymore. For the first time since I saw him, he looked lost. Not powerful, not confident, just human. But I didn't feel sympathy, not yet, because too much had already happened between us. Too many years had passed in silence. He finally spoke again. His voice was lower now, slower. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I didn't respond. I just listened. Then he said something unexpected. I didn't come back to take anything from you. A pause. I came back because I lost everything. For a moment, I didn't understand what he meant. He continued. After I left, I thought I could start a new life. But I was wrong. Nothing worked. Not my job, not my marriage, nothing. I felt something shift inside me, but I stayed silent. Then he said the words that changed everything. I thought forgetting you would be easy, but I couldn't. A long silence followed. I looked at him carefully, and for the first time, I saw something real in his eyes. Not excuses, not drama, just regret. Deep regret. But regret doesn't erase time. I finally spoke, my voice calm, controlled. Do you know what it feels like, growing up without a father? He lowered his head. No. I stepped slightly closer. You don't. Because you chose not to. His eyes turned red, but I didn't stop because I couldn't stop anymore. All those nights my mother cried. All those days I got asked why my father didn't come. I had no answer. My voice didn't break, but something inside me was shaking. Then I said something I didn't expect myself. You didn't just leave her. You left me without a version of you that I could love. That hit him harder than anything else. I could see it. His hands trembled slightly. For the first time, he didn't try to defend himself. Just then, the cafe door opened. My mother walked in. Everything froze. Her eyes immediately found him. And in that moment, the past collided with the present. She didn't say anything at first, just stood there, looking at the man she once knew, and the man who destroyed her peace. He stood up immediately. Please, he said, but she raised her hand, stopping him. No. Just one word, but it carried years of pain. She looked at me, then back at him, and said, You don't get to return and rewrite history. Silence again. Heavy, uncomfortable, final. I looked between both of them, and for the first time, I felt something different inside me. Not anger, not pain. Clarity. Because I finally understood something important. This wasn't about choosing sides. This was about understanding truth and deciding what it meant for me. And in that moment, I realized something else too. The girl who waited for her father was gone forever. What remained was someone who now had to choose her own ending. The cafe was silent. Not because no one was there, but because everything important had already been said. My father stood there, waiting. Not for forgiveness, not for acceptance, just for a reaction. My mother was still standing near the door, her eyes tired but strong. Years of pain were visible in her face, but so was something else now. Peace. I looked at both of them, and for the first time, I didn't feel like a child caught between two people. I felt like someone who finally understood
everything. My father spoke softly. I don't expect things to go back. I just wanted you to know I'm sorry. A pause. I know I can't fix the past, but I want to be part of your present. Silence again. I looked at him. Really looked at him. Not as a father, but as a man who made a choice 15 years ago. And I said calmly, "You already made your choice a long time ago." He lowered his head. I continued, "I didn't need you when I learned how to walk. I didn't need you when I cried alone. And I don't need you now to become strong." That line hit everything at once. My mother looked at me. Her eyes softened for the first time in years, like she finally understood I wasn't broken anymore. Then I said something that surprised even me. "I don't hate you." A pause. "But I don't need you either." Silence. Heavy. Final. My father closed his eyes, like he had been waiting for those words for years. And then he nodded, slowly, without arguing, without defending himself, just accepting it. "I understand," he whispered. He stepped back. One step, then another. And for the first time, he didn't ask to stay. He turned toward the door, stopped for a second, and looked at me one last time. But I didn't move, because I knew this was the ending he created long ago. Not today, not here. Years ago. He left, quietly, like he came. The door closed. No drama, no music, just silence. My mother finally walked toward me and gently held my hand. She said softly, "You did well." I looked at her, and for the first time in years, I felt something close to peace. Not because everything was fixed, but because I no longer needed it to be. We walked out of the cafe together, side by side, not looking back. And as I stepped into the sunlight, I realized something important. My story was never about him returning. It was about me learning that I was never waiting for him to complete my life. I was building it without him, all along.